Hello everybody, I'm Vincent and I'm everybody's wine guide. I've been in the wine business for about 40 years, and about 20 years ago I was visiting one of my wineries that I used to represent, and in the area of Pescara, Italy, which is on the Abruzzo region, right on the Adriatic coast. And after visiting the winery, looking at the vineyards, we decided to have a little lunch. And our host took us to this restaurant that was in the basement of looked like a warehouse. And I thought to myself, this is kind of strange. And we went down about 15 steps straight down into an open door. And we walked in there. It was just a big open hall with terracotta walls and maybe a little bit of window here and there. But the thing that really struck me was that there was none of the same flatware, there was no stemware, none of the plates were the same, none of the chairs were the same. It just looked like somebody got together, went over to you pick it, and brought a bunch of different things out there to make a little restaurant. And at first I thought to myself, this is insane. Why is he taking me to this restaurant? But okay, the good thing is the place was completely packed with people. And within 5 or 6 minutes, I became mesmerized by the way the people at the dinner that day were eating. Now here's a bunch of Italians that are at lunch on a Tuesday afternoon, and they're sitting down there, and there's a glass in one hand and a fork in the other, and neither one were put down throughout the entire meal. Now, while I walked in, there was a table over to the side with 8 people sitting there, and we had a special little section there where we were having our lunch. And I could not take my eyes off these people because they were just getting into their dinner. They were eating and drinking and talking and just enjoying themselves to an unbelievable degree. One of the things I should have realized then is that this must be something spectacular. And because there was such a wild time, since they were having such a good time, I turned to my host and I said, I got to ask you a question. Is today a holiday? And he said, no. I said, well, why are all these people, just going crazy here and eating and drinking? And he says, it's lunchtime. I said, yeah, but it's lunchtime, but it's, this is like a feast. Oh, this is the way we eat every day in Pescara. I said, really? Every day for 2 hours they would come to lunch and they would sit there, drink wine, eat food, and be perfectly sane when they left. But they were having such a good time, I wanted to know more. And I said, what is it about this? He said, well, in Pescara, the important thing is we eat like it's the last meal we're ever going to have. And we enjoy our food and our wine together. We make the wine and the food come together and touch. When they're in your mouth, they change the flavors. We savor every bite, and we enjoy our food to the nth degree. And I thought to myself, this is amazing. I looked over, and sure enough, here was a guy with a glass in one hand and a fork in the other, and he never had an empty cup, and he never had anything off his fork, and I don't think he ever stopped talking as well. So during this entire time, he's putting the food in his mouth, throwing a slug of wine in there at the same time, and talking, and they're having a great time. So again, I asked my host about this, and I noticed that there was no salt and pepper, no condiments like mustard or ketchup anywhere. And all this time, these people never stopped motioning. They were constantly moving. Finally, I realized what was happening here is these people were savoring every single bite of their meal. They would put in a bite of the food, and they would mix their food. They wouldn't just take a piece of meat or a vegetable. They would mix the vegetable, potato, everything in one, put it in their mouth, and then take the wine, and the wine was the condiment. The wine would go in there and change the flavor and make this explosion of a new flavor and taste. This was very exciting to me, and I realized later on that while I was a little concerned about the look of the place, the food was magnificent and the balancing wine was even better. This changed my life. I realized when I wrote my book, A Guide to Food and Wine Pairing, the most important thing that happens at dining time is make that dinner elongate, get longer. Normally, we Americans like to take our lunch or dinner and throw it down 15 minutes and we're in front of the TV. How about taking the time to take your glass of wine and take your food and take a bite of the food, take a sip of the wine, and sit there for a second and concentrate on the new flavors that this will have brought forth. And you will find an exciting new life. This is the way people in Europe eat. This is the way I think we need to learn to eat. When we wrote the book was about all about food and wine. I started out with a guide in the back of the book, which was 630 different foods with matching wines. Then I decided we need to write a little bit about growing grapes, a little bit about the different food genres, and why and how it relates to food and wine. Then we stepped a little further and we put a glossary in the back of some wine terms and made this book very, very simple. The bottom line to everything that we're doing here is that the guide to food and wine pairing is for the everyday person from the everyday wine guy. It is not for experts. It's for you, the everyday guy who wants to sit down with their fried chicken, hamburger helper, or plate of lasagna, and they want a glass of wine to match it and create a dining experience. Thank you.